Hello and welcome back to the M4J Network Overview series. I am of course M4J, and today we're on a very early morning service, one of the first of the day in fact. Now we ended last time out here at the incredible Plenborough Taurina station, and I wanted to catch a cross-region train from here to Sanley Central to show off the South Coast route, but then I got an interesting email. XRegion are trialling a new early morning series of services across their network for commuters trying to get to their morning meetings. As it so happens, one of these services is a one-a-day stopping service from Plenborough to Dendstone Carnegie, which might sound like it's heading in the opposite way to where I'm going, but actually from Dendstone I can catch either the cross-region service to Sanley via Plenborough or the cross-country service via Munfingford Paragon and Queen City Junction. That decision will have to wait for now though, as today it's very early in the morning and I'm about to travel on this inaugural service from Plenborough Taurina to Dendstone Carnegie. But first, some history. As we were pulling into Plenborough last time out, I mentioned that we were travelling on the original alignment into Plenborough Station. This was in the days before the Taurina was added, way before HighSpeed came storming in, and when the impressive station building you still see standing today actually connected directly to the platforms. Plenborough was always a large station, but nowhere near the scale that it is today. The original line into the town ran across the bridges that HighSpeed uses today. These bridges lifted the track away from the floodplains beneath, a lesson already learned at Guard City St George, as well as opening up space beneath the railway for housing and storage yards. The line ran into a beautiful train shed that spanned the width of the main station building, with services running along the south coast to the west towards Sanley, as well as to the north to Dendstone. As for trains to the east, these actually ran into a different station, Plenborough East, situated to the east of the current east-facing platforms. Trains along the south coast still had to loop around as they do now, but the loop itself was a lot smaller and tighter than the current alignment. You could hear the flange squeal from miles around. The station remained largely unchanged throughout this period. That is until the HighSpeed network was announced. As part of the project, plans were made to merge Plenborough and Plenborough East stations into a single station, to be called Plenborough Taurina, on the site of the existing Plenborough station. To achieve this, the high-speed route would take over the old route towards Dendstone, diverting onto a new alignment just north of the tunnel at Barfingford. The south coast line to the west was redirected underneath the bridges to connect up to the eastern coastal route and form a new approach to Plenborough Taurina from the east, tunnelling underneath the site of Plenborough East station. Eventually the line to Dendstone was also rebuilt to meet the new loop at its northeast corner, meaning all three conventional rail routes now approach Plenborough from the east. The original train shed was sadly lost during the rebuild, and even though the new station is a marvel of modern engineering, I do still wish they had kept at least part of the original structure. The high-speed platforms have been built to the north of the station building, which was kept as its a listed building. The building still contains the ticket offices, but is also now home to the Taurina Hotel, somewhere I definitely want to stay one time between journeys. The square between the station building and the station itself was created to provide a relaxing plaza for travellers to wait for connecting trains, and it certainly does the job. The conventional rail platforms connect to the eastern edge of the plaza. There are transfer points between the conventional and high-speed platforms, but for the most part passengers are funneled out into the square to wait for their next train. Passenger flow is a big part of Plenborough Taurina's design, and it is clever how they've made the station feel quiet, despite being incredibly busy during the peaks. These days, trains from Plenborough serve destinations such as Sanley, Dendstone, Bar City and Guard City. Eventually more destinations will be added, as Plenborough is currently going through a transitional phase of new services being added to replace older ones. Our service today, like I said, is part of the cross-network trials, and hopefully will prove successful enough for cross-network to base their southern operations out of the station. Besides cross-network and high-speed, Bar City Connect also runs from here, using both their Bar City Connect and Bar City Express brands. One day we'll travel along the coastal route into Bar City, but for now, let's take a quick look at today's train before we depart. Today we're on board a single 3-car Class 158 Sprinter unit. This unit was acquired specifically to run this once-a-day service and is part of the cross-region fleet allocated to the new trials. Our top speed today will be 90 miles per hour, faster than most regional trains in this area of the network, so we'll be in Dendstone before we know it. The cross-region service that usually travels between Plenborough and Dendstone also continues to Sanley, stopping only at Dendstone Carnegie and Carfingfield between Dendstone and Plenborough, but this trial service calls at more stations in order to pick up early morning commuters. As a result, our stops today will be at Gruningbury South, Ornford Woods, Carfingfield, Harningpool North, Dendstone Carnegie, Fentown West and Wanborough before finally arriving at Dendstone Carnegie. This was an unexpected but exciting addition to the M4J Network Overviews series, so let's try out this new service and see how useful it really is. Leaving Plenborough, we passed through a series of tunnels. These tunnels were built for two reasons. Firstly, so the town could eventually expand above the railway, but also so the railway could pass beneath the site of Plenborough East whilst the station was being demolished. The two short tunnels back to back is where Plenborough East used to be, which is funny, as the station was actually closer to Bonington. The name Plenborough East was chosen to inform passengers that they could change onto trains from Plenborough via short bus ride. A new housing development called Plenborough East has been announced for this area, so one day you'll be able to live in a neighbourhood named after the station that used to call the area home. As we reach Plenborough Junction, we'll be taking the northernmost pair of tracks. These are the slow lines on the loop, so you can see just how far east trains heading west must travel before they can loop around. This is by no means the most efficient means, but it does keep all the routes connected together, so I guess it must work out okay. We are now arriving at Gruningbury South. Most stations on this part of the line were built along with the railway, so there isn't a whole lot of history to cover. Anytime there is something worth mentioning though, I'll be sure to jump in and let you all know. Despite being called Gruningbury South, the station actually sits pretty centrally within Gruningbury. The railway forms a nice barrier for the town, creating a huge expanse of greenfield land to the west. Eventually this will all get built on, of course, but for now it's nice to see some greenery on our journey. Leaving Groninbury South, we cross the coastal loop junction. Trains turning west here continue along the coast towards Sanley. We're however continuing north on the line to Dendstone. This is the new connection I mentioned earlier. Originally the line to Dendstone joined what are now the high-speed tracks approaching from the north, even after the high-speed network was built. Warnford Woods is our next stop. The woods themselves span from here up to the northwest, with some lovely walking, hiking and biking paths traversing the site, or so I'm told anyways. The town of Warnford has grown exceptionally over the last 10 years or so, now turning into almost a small city. The line joining us from the south here is used by cross-network trains heading to and from Prunford in the southeast. This little branch line negates the need for trains to reverse at Plenborough when travelling from north to east and vice versa. Carvingfield Station is the only station on this section of the line to have platforms on all 4 tracks. If we were travelling on the usual cross-region service, this would also be our only stop between Plenborough and Dendstone. Cross-country HSTs rocket through this station at line speed, so there are some good opportunities to catch trains at speed here. Harningpool Market, or Harningpool North, is a pretty quiet station for the most part. The town itself is fairly expansive, but sadly the majority of the population prefer to travel by car. Hopefully the new service through the station can encourage more people to ditch their cars and hop on a train instead. As we skirt along the lakeside here, we begin to approach Dendstone Carnegie. We travelled through Dendstone before when on board the Capital Express from Guard City St Mark to Bath City Central, but this would be our first proper visit to the station. The southern approaches through the tunnels always bring an air of mystery to the station, but we'll be back in the light very soon. To call Plenborough Taurina cavernous would be a major understatement. With 22 platforms, technically 8 platforms split in half with 6 bays at the western end, this station will eventually see a train leaving or arriving every 30 seconds, or at least that's the plan. Right now the station is served by Guard City Southeastern, Bath City Connect and Cross Network trains, but more franchises are planned to call here in the near future. The most well known of these is Southeastern, not to be confused with Guard City Southeastern, that will use Dendstone as one of its northern terminus stations. Southeastern will cover the entire southeast corner of the network, including Plenborough, Pruntford, and even as far north as Dendstone. The train we're travelling on today may even be taken over by Southeastern if the trial proves successful. Leaving Dendstone, we cross over to the northeastern fast lines. We'll be running as a semi-fast service for the remainder of today's journey, as the electric Bath City Connect suburban trains cover the commuter services. We're once again entering new territory here on the M4J network, as the Capital Express takes the more direct northwestern line towards Guard City. Here we are at Fentown West. We're on the lower platforms today, with the higher platforms served by trains between Hartberg and Bar City Bruntberg Airport. I really love the way the surrounding neighbourhoods have swallowed up the station again. There's something so satisfying about seeing a railway station nestled in the centre of its community, rather than shunted out into the middle of nowhere. Now we're on the fast lines, we can really stretch our wheels. I love being on a fast train, rocketing past the slower services either side as we shoot through the countryside. We will be slowing soon for our stop at Plenborough, but it's still nice to go fast on the train for a bit. Ah yes, the quirky station at Plenborough. The platforms are staggered either side of the fast lines, leading to this really unusual design. Technically the station has just 2 platforms, but considering the junction layouts along each side, 4 trains can use the station at the same time. The station was built much smaller originally, with a single platform on the western side of the main running lines. As the route became more popular, a second platform was added to the east, before the junctions were built to allow trains on the fast lines to also call here. Pretty neat if you ask me. We are now on the final leg of our journey towards Dendstone Carnegie. Once again though, we are on the fast lines, so let's watch the scenery fly by out of the window. Here at Hinham Junction, we cross from the fast lines back to the slow. This is because it is the slow lines that swing north to Dendstone, with the fast lines continuing west towards Munfingford Paragon along the Central Heart route. After travelling across this awesome bridge, we'll turn north before arriving into Dendstone Carnegie. And here we are at today's destination at Dendstone Carnegie. Now we have a choice here. Like I said at the top of the video, to get to Sanley from here, we can either travel with cross-region or cross-country. The cross-region service takes us back down the line to Plenborough before travelling along the south coast, whilst the cross-country service sees us on a more direct route via Munfingford Paragon and Queen City Junction. I'm going to leave the decision to you guys in the comments, but in case of a tie, I'll have the deciding vote. I've really enjoyed my trip here today on this trial service. I can definitely see these one-a-day commuter hopper services catching on along the M4J network, and I'll be sure to include one the next time I'm invited. For now though, thank you very much for watching. Please smack that like button if you've enjoyed today's video, and of course if you're enjoying the series so far. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to do so, and if you have already subscribed, thank you for your continued support. Be sure to check out some of my other content here on the channel as well. Enjoy the end of journey stats, and until next time, I will see you soon.